Good morning and welcome back. Yesterday we made very good progress and covered 10 items. I'm confident today's conversation will move us forward in an efficient and productive way. With regards to today's schedule, during the opening of this meeting on Monday, I mentioned the possibility of holding an evening session today, Friday the 5th of February. I would like to propose and proceed with the evening session, which will be held from 1800 to 2100. We shall now consider sub-item 28.4, Governance Reform. This sub-item contains 5 bullets, which will all be taken up together as follows: Member State-led governance reform, Secretariat implementation plan on reform, template and recommended timeline for proposed resolutions and decisions, cost recovery mechanisms for voluntary contributions, and implementation of the process for handling and investigating potential allegations against WHO Directors General. The first bullet, entitled Member State-led governance reform, includes 2 reports contained in documents EB 158/36 and EB 158/37. Document EB 158/36 contains a report submitted by the officers of the Executive Board. Following the discussion at PBAC last week, the officers of the Board have proposed some amendments to their original accompanying decision, which is now contained in document EB 158/36, Add 1, Rev 1. Document EB 158/37 contains a report by the leads for Member State-led governance reform and includes a draft decision in Appendix 1. The financial and administrative implications for the Secretariat of the 2 decisions are contained in document EB 158/36, Add 1. Document EB 158/38 covers the 2nd and 4th bullets, entitled Secretariat Implementation Plan on Reform and an update on cost recovery mechanisms for voluntary contributions. The 3rd bullet, entitled Template and Recommended Timeline for Proposing Resolutions and Decisions, is contained in document EB 158/39. The 5th bullet, entitled Implementation of the Process for Handling and Investigating Potential Allegations against WHO Directors General, is contained in document EB 158/40. As these matters were discussed by the Program, Budget and Administration Committee, I shall draw your attention to the report of the committee contained in document EB 158/4, paragraphs 23 to 31. I would like to invite the Secretariat to read out the recommendations of the PBAC. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to governance reform, the committee held 2 discussions. First, on Member States-led governance reform and the template and recommended timeline for proposing resolutions and decisions. The committee reviewed the proposals provided in document EB 158/36 and a draft decision contained in document EB 158/36, Add 1. The committee recommended that the Executive Board note the report and consider the proposals contained in document EB 158/36. Recognizing that the committee sought further informal consultations, particularly on the consequences of the draft decision contained in document EB 158/36, Add 1, the committee invited the officers of the Board to refine the decision text after undertaking informal consultations with Member States. The Executive Board would then consider that updated draft decision. The committee recommended that the Board decide to pilot those measures on which the Board is able to reach consensus. The committee further recommended that the Board request that the piloted measures be reviewed and that the results of the review be presented to the Board at its 162nd session for consideration. The committee also recommended that the Executive Board note the reports contained in documents EB 158/37 and EB 158/39 and consider the draft decision contained in document EB 158/37 noting that the draft decision is to be discussed further among member states. The committee proposed as guidance for the Secretariat's implementation of existing mandates that the Secretariat should A, extend the application of the current timeline, checklist, and template for proposing draft resolutions and/or decisions, refining them as necessary in consultation with member states to the 159th session of the Executive Board and to future sessions of the Board. B, conduct a pilot on a consolidated presentation of cost estimates in the form of a single overview document instead of individual annexes on the financial and administrative implications of resolutions and decisions as outlined in paragraph 13 of document EB 158/39, subject to the approval of member states and following inclusive member states consultation. The second discussion of the PBAC covered the Secretariat Implementation Plan on Reform, cost recovery mechanisms for voluntary contributions, and implementation of the process for handling and investigating potential allegations against WHO Directors General. The committee recommended that the Executive Board note the reports contained in documents EB 158/38 and EB 158/40. It further proposed, as guidance for the Secretariat's implementation of existing mandates, that the Secretariat should A, implement the remaining open actions in the Secretariat Implementation Plan on Reform within the time frame indicated and continue reporting on implementation outcomes. B, mitigate risks associated with limited human and financial resources through continued prioritization of efforts and by ensuring alignment with the 14th General Program of Work 2025-2028, as well as optimizing synergies with related ongoing reform and organizational change efforts. Engage with member states and donors to promote alignment with cost recovery principles, to minimize requests for exceptions and ensure new agreements aligned with the updated principles and guidance. And D, continue to work to advance the implementation of the process for handling and investigating potential allegations against WHO Directors General in line with document A78/5. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The floor is now open for discussion. Kindly indicate your intention to join the floor if you wish to take the floor to comment on the recommendations of the PBAC and on the amended draft decision contained in document EB 158/36, Add 1, Rev 1. I first ask members of the Executive Board to indicate their interest on intervening. After we've exhausted that, I will then go to other member states. The floor is open. People have planes to catch. No. I give the floor to Saudi Arabia, followed by Thailand.
شكرا. إن إقليم شرق المتوسط.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Emir region reaffirms the importance of the document on governance reform to improve this in the organization. The health challenges continue to increase across the globe. Governance bodies of WHO must be in line with the needs and with their mandate so that these efforts remain in the hands of member states as well. We commend the Secretariat for facilitating consultations between member states and the dialogue between various regions that has made it possible to identify the main governance challenges described in the document. The EB has also undergone and has conducted consultations where views have been exchanged sufficiently in order to broaden consultations. Thanks to the effective coordination and participation, our region has put forward proposals and contributions on the issue of governance. These contributions determine the joint priorities, namely protecting the sovereignty of member states, then transparency, responsibility, equitable implementation in the regions. We express our recognition to the states of the EMERA region for their coordination, which has made it possible to achieve a clear vision of our position. We also appreciate the role of the EB members and their efforts to implement this reform. We thank them for taking into consideration the proposals of EMERA to modify the draft decision. This has made it possible to introduce some proposals, in particular, to achieve a gradual transition for the implementation of the reform. As regards the need for proposals to be sponsored by various regions, we recall the consultations carried out by the EB in order to have proposals that will likely be approved by all. We will need to ensure that important proposals are supported by 3 member states of the EB from the 2 regions. This is a proposal that was made by our region and that was implemented in the pilot phase. We remain committed to this gradual reform guided by member states, and I recall that I have made the statement on behalf of the EMERA region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Thailand, followed by Bulgaria.
Mr. Chair, Director General, distinguished delegate, we have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the member states of the WHO Southeast Asian region. We thank the officer of the EB for the report. We look forward to member state-led process effort to strengthening WHO governance through consultation in transparent, efficient, and inclusive manner. We recognize the pressure created by crowded agenda, expanding mandate, and growing number of draft resolutions and decisions. And we agree that reforms are needed to safeguard meaningful participation for all delegations, particularly smaller ones. We support designing a pilot-based approach in measures where there is a consensus, then can be tested for implementation during the agreed timeline of pilot phase. We encourage earlier predictable timelines and clearer expectations for concept note, zero draft, and consultation, together with timeline cost estimation before negotiation, so member states can assess feasibility and implementation risk in a practical and timely way. We also welcome secure digital tools to enhance transparency and streamline submissions. Regarding the suggested amendment related to the Rule 32, we see merit in reinforcing discipline and enabling earlier translation and program budget administration committee review, while preserving narrowing defined flexibility for generally urgent and unforeseen public health situations, guided by clear criteria and transparent rationale. However, such amendment to the rules of procedure should be taken up through inclusive member state consultation. Mr. Chair, our region supports piloting a consolidated overview of cost estimation at the post-information negotiation stage, instead of multiple annexes, to improve comparability and reduce burden for delegation and the Secretariat. In parallel, we encourage streamlining reporting mandate and consolidating follow-up reporting, so governing body time is better utilized for strategic dialogue. Finally, we call a substandard model for member state-led governance reform process open to all member states. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Bulgaria, followed by Japan.
Chair, Bulgaria takes note of the reports under this item and welcomes the proposed reform measures. Bulgaria has been an ardent proponent and supporter of the proposed reform measures aimed at improving transparency, accountability, and efficiency, adequately reflecting the concerns of Member States. We support the resolution, agenda, and time management suggestions for improvement targeted at reasonable workload and meaningful engagement of small delegations. Bulgaria participated in the study on the process of drafting resolutions, providing comprehensive answers, and finds the outlined steps useful and practical. Bulgaria supports an amendment of the deadline for submitting draft documents to 15 days before the start of the session, thus enabling the Secretariat to prepare all the necessary documents for the forum and the delegations to familiarize with the texts while opening an opportunity for feedback review before the EB, linking the financial and administrative implications to the available budget. In addition, we would prefer to see, instead of consolidated presentation of expenditure forecasts in a single overview, specific estimates provided separately to Member States that could contribute to transparency and effective planning of the financial costs of implementing resolutions. Finally, Bulgaria supports the draft decision proposed, looking forward to the piloting phase that will trial and verify the proposed measures and allow us to move forward to constructive discussions on their implementation for a much anticipated change, and we call for its support by Member States. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Japan, followed by Togo.
Thank you, Chair. Japan expresses its sincere appreciation to the Chair and officers of the Executive Board for the dedicated leadership in advancing this essential governance reform, which is increasingly important under the current global health challenges. Japan supports the reform proposals in the documents proposed that enable us to become more efficient, effective, and sustainable, as well as responding to the diverse needs in each member state. We also appreciate convening of the informal consultation, and we're grateful for the valuable inputs from the member states. We support the revised draft decision as contained EB 18058/36 Addendum 1 Rev 1 that reflects the discussions during the informal consultation. Going forward, Japan would like to reiterate the importance of to clarify the principles, define exceptions, and design the system for the implementation. Japan also appreciates the Secretariat's progress report and welcome that 95 of 97 actions have been completed. We encourage steady implementation of the remaining actions and continue reporting on the outcomes and areas for the improvement. We also stress the importance of the consistent implementation of the process of handling allegations against WHO Directors General. Japan remains firmly committed to supporting the governance reform so that WHO continues to fulfill its core mandate and strengthen global health architecture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Togo, followed by Norway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Togo has the honor to make this statement on behalf of 47 members of the African region. We thank the Secretary for the excellent document. Recalling that the statement regarding the implementation of the reform and the cost covering mechanisms and the implementation of the process for handling investigating potential allegations, we are committed to the process that has made it possible to highlight joint concerns regarding the density of the agendas, the late submissions, application of procedures. Member states of the African region have actively participated in various informal consultations conducted to this end. Regarding the plan for the implementation of the reform drafted by the Secretary, the African region appreciates the progress made since 2023, moving from 39% to 98% of implementation of activities, highlighting accountability, transparency, efficiency, internal oversight, and guarantee of WHO on full recovery of costs during the investment cycle. We welcome the reforms undertaken and the report made, and look forward to the report to the WHA in 2027. We thank the Secretariat for the progress made in implementing the various steps, because despite of the 20% fixed, the voluntary contributions have remained as the principal source of funding for 2024-2025. We welcome the consultation of independent entities and the information on operational modes, and the process to be followed to deal with the possible allegations against the Director General of WHO and to investigate these allegations. We take note of the report and invite the Secretariat to continue to monitor the implementation of the process for draft resolutions and draft decisions, and to report on the impact on the participation efficiency during the future sessions, and to ensure an update of the list of independent investigative entities. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Norway, followed by Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to thank the EB Chair, his team, and my fellow Bureau members for their commitment to bringing the Member State-led governance reform forward. We as Member States have since 2022 discussed how to make our governing bodies work more efficiently. Agendas and meetings are getting longer and the number of negotiations is increasing. This week has again shown that we are currently not able to give all items on the agenda the attention they deserve. We have heard much about support, but also concerns about some of the proposed reform measures. We thank you for your open and candid discussion during the consultations on Tuesday and during earlier consultations. We have listened and made changes to try to find an agreed way forward that both alleviates concern while still keeping the momentum of meaningful reform. We believe the current reform proposals and the revised decision represent a middle ground and a way forward that allows us to pilot measures that enjoy broad support and to further discuss modalities of other measures. As former PBAC chair, I could see firsthand the value of piloting efficiency measures in that committee. And as an officer of the board, I'm committed to continue to move the process forward while continuing inclusive and structured discussions. Together, we must commit to make WHO better fit for purpose. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Zimbabwe, followed by Costa Rica.
Thank you, Chair. The African region welcomes the focus on member state-led governance reform. We thank the Secretariat, the facilitators of the member states, the governance-led reform, the EB Chair, and the officers of the Executive Board for the work that's done so far. We thank the EB Bureau for facilitating the informal member states consultation and for trying to address some of the concerns in the revised or draft decision. We share the objective of making WHO governance more transparent, predictable, equitable, enabling all regions to participate meaningfully and efficiently. We recognize the value of the proposed package of reforms. However, there's no need for acceleration. Addressing persistent challenges in resolution management, agenda, and mandate management. On the issue of co-sponsorship, the region urges the EB to reconsider co-sponsorship from 3 to 2 regions. We support the revised decision to reconstitute the Bureau-led process with full consultation with input from member states. Clear understanding and member state ownership is required before we proceed with the entire package of the pilot. In the meantime, we support an earlier initiation of concept notes and 0 drafts for resolutions. We also support the consolidated representation of estimated cost of resolutions and or decisions. The African region looks forward to engaging constructively in further discussions for a governance model that is transparent, accountable, and workable for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Costa Rica, followed by Spain.
Gracias, Presidente. Thank you, Chair. Costa Rica welcomes the work undertaken by all countries, but we also wish to make a final comment, as this is my last year participating here. For 3 years I've been here, and we've heard repeated conversations on reform of governance without specific advances. There are key decisions to be made for public health and financing in countries, but without a technical analysis or adequate analysis to enable implementation going beyond cooperation. And we know how unstable the situation is. There remain duplications, heavy workloads, and matters that are delayed year after year owing to a lack of planning, a lack of data, but also a real analysis of what remains to be done for implementation. There are a number of agenda items that need to have measurable matters. And as regards global public health and this organization, there's inefficiency and also increased politicization in discussions. And this is eroding the credibility of this body. And we need to go back to our countries and face our populations. Deep changes are needed and leadership with a vision and expertise and technical expertise to ensure we can ensure that this body ensures global public health. Otherwise, we will fail. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Spain, followed by Cabo Verde.
Thank you very much. Firstly, we wish to welcome the work of the Executive Board and Australia and China. Thank you for providing options in order to improve the governance bodies. There are other processes underway in other Geneva organizations and elsewhere and institutional contexts. All of us who are advocating for multilateralism are aware of the imperative need to work more efficiently. We believe that we must look into ways to enhance implementation of decisions and agendas of governance meetings. We think the new proposal draft decision responds to many of the concerns made by members. We had this discussion on Tuesday, and this led to new consultations in order to broaden matters if need be by consensus. We support the draft decision as a good starting point to move towards the pilot project phase and looking into the viability and measures. For us, a priority is to implement this pilot project as soon as possible so that we can be best prepared to move to the next phase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Cabo Verde, followed by Republic of Korea.
Thank you very much, Chair, Director General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We wish to endorse the statement made by the African Group, voiced by Togo. We thank the DG and the Secretariat for this comprehensive report. We understand the comprehensive role of WHO in dealing with health matters globally. We also commend the WHO for its key role in mobilizing this sector and coordinating a global unified response. And we fully support its key role for coordination on global health matters. Currently, WHO faces new major challenges, namely financial ones, and therefore it is vital to ensure reform for its smooth functioning. Over the past year, we've seen that global health emergencies, climate shocks, and challenges to the health system requires changes to be made in order to respond speedily and ensuring close coordination with member states as well. We are committed to ensuring a more equitable, more inclusive, resilient health system in order to take on the new challenges and build on the accomplishments made over the past decades. Efforts will be made to ensure reforms can respect transparency and global efficiency of the WHO work. We wish to underscore the following. First, governance reform must strengthen equity. All member states regardless of their size or revenue, must have a real possibility to participate in decision-making and to ensure technical support that is so needed. Next, transparency and accountability are essential. Clear, transparent, responsible financing and open communication will bolster trust and enable WHO to fulfill its mandate. Lastly, the reforms must strengthen WHO capacity to help countries on the basis of resilient health systems. We reaffirm our willingness to work constructively with all member states in order to reach consensus on this matter and any other matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Now give the floor to the Republic of Korea, followed by Nepal. You need to push the button again.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Korea welcomes the reports on the governance reform and expresses our appreciation to the Bureau and the Secretariat for their efforts to enhance the efficiency and transparency of the WHO decision-making processes. And we support the measures outlined in the report on member state-led governance reform and the draft decision Rep 1 to enable the efficient discussion of the Executive Board under constrained budgetary conditions, while ensuring that member states have sufficient time and information to review of the agenda items. In addition, we commend the Secretariat for the significant reform implementation plan over the past years. Regarding the financial sustainability challenges noted in the report, the Republic of Korea emphasizes that the full cost recovery is essential for the sound financial management of the organization. To foster broader adherence to this principle, providing a predictable and rational approach to assessing administrative costs would encourage greater voluntary contribution from member states. Overall, the Republic of Korea remains committed to the supporting WHO's governance reform efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Nepal, followed by Switzerland.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation aligns with the statement delivered by Thailand on behalf of the region. We thank Norway for leading the informal consultations held this week on the matter. It provided helpful avenue to discuss on the detailed aspects of draft decision that is being discussed since the meeting of PBAC. We emphasize that the process should also address the issue of greater burden on member states with less resources, as aptly captured in the paragraph 7, subparagraph C of the paper before us. It is also equally true that this should not create additional burdens on those member states represented in the board but are under-resourced. We have two questions, Chair, for some clarification. The Rev 1 of EB 158/36 contains items in brackets, and it is also listed as one of the main documents. It's not in the conference room paper, but it is listed as one of the main documents. So we'd like to inquire how the Bureau intends to open those brackets, because there are still items under the brackets there. Another question, one of the PBAC's recommendation to the EB was to consider the decision contained in appendix to the document EB 158/38 as well. I would like to seek clarification whether that decision element will also be considered today. Thank you, Chair.
I think I can answer the first question. Just to remind delegates why the square brackets are there. The square brackets are there because it was signalling that we understood these were areas there was still some discussion ongoing, and therefore it wasn't putting a decision as a fait accompli, it was essentially saying these are still for discussion. As far as I'm aware, when we get to the discussion of the decision, my proposal, from what I'm hearing so far, would be just to remove all the square brackets, because I think I've heard, for example, on the regional co-sponsorship, that 2 regions, 3 countries acceptable. But that is actually the question I will put first when we get to the decision. Are people happy to remove the square brackets, or is there something they would still find objectionable? We could identify that on an item-by-item basis. In terms of the second question, I will turn to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Nepal, please correct me if I am wrong. But there is in fact a second decision that will be considered under this item contained in document EB 158/37, and it is contained in the appendix relating to a sustainable model for member state-led governance reform. If that was the question, the answer would be yes. Thank you.
And just looking at my notes, we will take the Rev 1 first, then we will take that document, so you'll have an opportunity to comment on each individually when we get to the decision point. Thank you. I now give the floor to Switzerland, followed by Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Switzerland recognizes and supports the note in the report submitted by the members of the Executive Board Bureau. We sincerely thank you for your leadership, perseverance in steering this process and providing guidance. We also appreciate to hear the different views on this. This will allow us to move ahead collectively. We value the inclusive process undertaken, including regional consultations to identify a way forward and to launch a pilot. This approach is essential to ensure ownership both in capitals and in Geneva. For the pilot to succeed, sustained engagement will be crucial, supported by continued exchanges among member states throughout the pilot phase. We all share the understanding that WHO governance reform is necessary, and we now have to collectively responsibility to translate this into action. It is important that the EB sends a clear signal that we, the member states, are willing to allow our organization and its governing bodies to reform themselves, while we continue to refine the pilot through continued dialogue among us. Switzerland thanks the Secretariat for the report on the implementation plan, for the Secretariat reform, and for the continued efforts undertaken in a very challenging financial context. The report is comprehensive and well prepared. In regard to the existing tools, Switzerland encourages the Secretariat to adapt the annual calendar for the submission of resolution and decisions as proposed in document EB 158/39, and to present it annually during the session of the Executive Board following the World Health Assembly. This would support transparent and inclusive planning and provide useful orientation, in particular for new Executive Board members. Finally, Switzerland underscores the critical role of the Secretariat of the governing bodies. Also in the context of governance reform, this unit forms the backbone of a member state-led organization, and it must be adequately staffed and supported. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia extends its appreciation to the officers of the Board, Member State leads and the Secretariat for their leadership in progressing reforms. We also thank all Member States who have actively contributed to the consultations, whether Geneva-based, through the regions or between capitals over many months, noting that these discussions and reforms have been in place for many years. We deeply appreciate the active participation of Member States at the informal consultation hosted on Tuesday evening, which has led to a more refined draft decision. Chair, it's clear the leadership of Bureau members has been central to the support of Member States in their regions. We are particularly encouraged by the strength of support in the statements of the Vice Chairs of Togo, Saudi Arabia and Thailand on behalf of their regions. This work represents an important milestone and a timed opportunity to see essential progress on reform efforts that are many years in the making. The reduced budget brings into sharp focus the need for greater discipline and more strategic prioritisation across the work programme by Member States. But let's be clear, as a Member State-led organisation, it is ultimately our behaviour and interaction with the governance of the WHO that will ensure its sustainable success into the future. So, Chair, we want to acknowledge why we need these reforms. One, we need to continue to modernise and protect the WHO in a time of significant financial pressure. Two, ensure that all Member States can participate equitably in the functions of the WHO and its decision-making processes. And three, to embed collaborative change in how we as Member States collectively engage with each other and the WHO. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. I see no other Executive Board members seeking to take the floor, so I now open the floor to Member States who are not members of the Executive Board. The floor is open. I give the floor to Pakistan, followed by the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our EB members, particularly Australia, for their consultations with regions on this particular process, but we would also suggest, and as we have in the past, that regional consultations are important, but consultations with Geneva-based missions is also a critical element, and that should not be sidelined or sidestepped. We appreciate in this regard the consultations that were held during the last week on the document that's contained in EB 15836. We have some concerns on the draft decision as it appears now. So perhaps we'd request, and if the chair considers it appropriate, to perhaps flash the document on the screen so that member states could voice their concern and, or inputs, and everybody could, to see that. Thank you.
Russian Federation, followed by China.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. We thank the EB for revising the draft decision. We believe that the new version of the document better reflects the various positions of member states. Nonetheless, the course of action that has been proposed in the document is not quite consistent in our view. The EB approves the pilot project, but also continues to discuss the parameters for its implementation. We believe it would be more logical to first complete the discussions and then implement the project, the pilot project. We're also not convinced that such a lengthy period is needed for the implementation of the pilot. 1 year, we believe, would be more than enough. Moreover, we do not support the initiative to amend the EB rules of procedure. We're convinced that the member states must retain the sovereign right to subject draft documents through to the end of the first working day of the EB. Thank you.
China, followed by Ecuador.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, China. First of all, thanks to the EB Bureau to propose the new version of the draft decision. As mentioned before, the speakers before me, China also holds some concerns on the new version of the draft decisions. We echo the suggestion from colleagues from Pakistan. Probably it's better if Secretariat could project the draft decision on the screen that to help the member states have a more constructive communication or exchange on the text of the draft resolution will be helpful to facilitate our discussion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I just respond to that request from Pakistan and China? I'm a little reluctant to do that. We haven't done it in the EB, we haven't put it on the screen, and I think a collective drafting session on what is actually a reasonably detailed resolution would be, I think, a bit challenging. I am prepared to contemplate suspending the item if there are a small number of delegations that want to undertake informal consultations with a view of bringing this back after lunch. The indications I've had are that the differences are manageable enough that that could be done in a small drafting session rather than taking time. I'm very conscious that there are a number of other items on our agenda we're about to get to of very significant sensitivity where people would like to have them done in a way. So that's my initial comment. I'll deal with the other interventions and then I'll move to, once that's concluded, I will move to the usual part of the proceeding, which would include noting the documents. If the board notes those documents, if there's still a desire to have further work, I would then propose suspending the session so that there can be informal consultations coming back after lunch. So that's my proposal at the moment. I will now move to Ecuador, followed by Brazil.
Thank you, Chair. Ecuador recognizes the significant advances made by the organization in strengthening transparency, accountability, financial management, and moving towards results. These are vital to bolster the impact of the WHO in countries. At the national level, we have undertaken actions in line with these principles, strengthening planning, follow-up, and evaluation, and management based on results and interinstitutional coordination. We especially value progress in strengthening the impact conduct in countries, improving accountability mechanisms, and advances towards preventing and responding to undue sexual conduct. As regards, we strongly support prioritization of activities of the organization and strategically and to optimize the use of resources through greater operative efficiency and promoting predictable, flexible financing to support advances made. We take note of the report and support the process towards ongoing reform of governance in WHO. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Brazil, followed by Indonesia.
Chair, Brazil shares with the EB officers the objective of enhancing the efficiency of WHO. As we have indicated, we could agree with most of the proposed measures, particularly following the release of the latest version of the decision point. However, we remain concerned about certain elements of the so-called pilot. While we recognize the additional flexibility introduced on the proposal, we continue to believe that requiring cross-regional support at the zero draft stage may hinder the participation of small delegations. In a process already involving significant financial consideration, the PBEC's revisional role may duplicate efforts and further burden its agenda. Furthermore, while we support the continuity of the reform process, we emphasize the importance of ensuring full and transparent participation of all delegations. We must not limit it to inputs. Brazil remains ready to contribute constructively to the reform process with a view to enhancing efficiency as well as strengthening member state engagement with WHO. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Indonesia, followed by Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. We also appreciate consultations held on Tuesday. We hope our position as a country on member states-led governance reform is clear now. We are supportive of the objective of the governance reform. We do support it, but we also want it done right, both procedurally and also substantively. I think we said it before, we need to have a meaningful discussion on which proposed reform measures we're going to take up in the reform itself. And some proposals we mentioned, any roles of the EB officers or the board in determining which draft proceeds to member state consultation. This warrant healthy discussions, especially on the practical consequences for member states. And we would like to hear on how clarifications on how consultations would be done in Geneva. There are a number of things in the draft decision that merits more explanations, and we do see the need to have it reflected on the screen and have further discussion on this. And especially the part regarding elaboration on element is not what we are asking for actually. This prejudge the inclusion of these elements in the reform going forward. I think what we are asking is we have to have a healthy discussion on which elements we will have further discussion on. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Zambia, followed by Cyprus.
Thank you, Chair. Governance reforms are a perennial discussion in the United Nations and the WHO as we need to evolve with times and situations. Zambia supports reforming the governance of the WHO for effective and efficient decision-making on substantive matters. We're of the view that some of the proposed reforms are already underway, such as speaking time limits and use of templates on resolutions and decisions. We support the consolidation of costs of resolutions and decisions. We thank the Secretariat for the document on the financial and administrative implications of the proposed decision, as the Zambian delegation has specifically requested for the information during the informal meeting. While ever not with concern that the proposed reforms, including the proposed establishment of an advisory group, has not been planned for under the current program and budget and work plans and the next biennium. We therefore seek further clarity or further details on how $1.65 million for the implementation will be catered for. Thank you.
Give the floor to Cyprus.
Chair, I am taking the floor on behalf of the EU and its 27 member states. We welcome the draft decision and believe it provides a very good starting point for governance reform. It allows us to move forward on reform by establishing a pilot process while inviting further discussion on the design and modalities with input from all member states. We remain committed to working with the Bureau and all other member states on the design and modalities of the pilot process. A pilot will allow us to test which measures help us the most and lets us create the most efficient process for all member states collectively. We can then adapt measures and take an informed decision on what the process ideally looks like. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to Germany, followed by Bulgaria.
Chair, Germany aligns with the EU statement. We highly support the draft decision. Governance reform has been a topic of discussion for many years in this organisation, and one thing has become abundantly clear. None of us are satisfied with how things are now. We need change. The current processes don't help us create a manageable workload. They don't allow all delegations, regardless of size, to engage meaningfully. They don't give us sufficient time to negotiate well and find the best possible agreements. And that is exactly what the proposed reform measures are aiming to achieve. This is our organisation, and we need to collectively make sure that it runs in the best way possible. This is our organisation, and we need to make sure that it runs in the best way possible. That should be our baseline agreement, and that should be something we commit to now. We need to move the reforms forward today by agreeing to start a pilot. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now give the floor to Bulgaria.
Chair, Director General, colleagues, I'm delivering this statement on behalf of the EB members from the Euro region: Bulgaria, Israel, Norway, Poland, Serbia, Spain, Switzerland, and Ukraine. Let me start by thanking the EB Chair and the officers of the Executive Board for their efforts for advancing the Member State-led governance reform. We strongly agree that effective and efficient governance structures that enable transparent, accountable, and trusted decision-making are essential to support WHO in delivering on its core mandate and in line with the GPW. Currently, the number of agenda items, decisions, and resolutions is overburdening both the Secretariat and Member States, in particular smaller delegations. It is Member States' collective responsibility to support WHO work more efficiently. We believe that the proposed pilot phase for measures ensure continued Member State-led governance and provide a balanced starting point that takes into account the views of those advocating for stronger measures as well as those calling for further consideration. We therefore support the measures to be trialled during a pilot phase and, based on it, move forward to actively engage in effective discussions on their implementation. Ultimately, successful reform measures rest on our willingness as Member States to support and stick to them now and in the future. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the Netherlands.
Thank you, Chair. The Netherlands aligns itself with the statement delivered by Cyprus on behalf of the EU and its member states, and wish to add an additional point. During the informal consultation on Tuesday, we noted broad recognition for the need for reform. This proposal has a very long lead time. It is the result of many member state consultations and discussions and opportunities for written feedback. Let us move this forward and seize the momentum created by WHO realignment, as well as wider UN and global health actor reform, prompting us to be more agile, more focused, efficient, and ultimately effective. We can't afford to miss the boat. This pilot allows us to take the next step towards a more future-proof WHO that is able to continue delivering on our shared goal of health and well-being for all. Now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other member states seeking the floor? I see no further requests. I will just check whether there are any observers or UN bodies or IGOs. Apologies, Pakistan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for giving us the floor again. I just have a quick question. I think you suggested that perhaps we could go to a drafting or some kind of an exercise, but not in the room here. We could suspend this agenda item and then come back to it in the afternoon. Yes, that was what I was going to sum up, Pakistan, that I would intend to do that. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Are there any other member states seeking to take the floor? No. I just double check that there are no observers or UN bodies or IGOs wish to take the floor. I see there's no request. So what I do intend to proceed is, yes, we will have a room. Secretary will announce what the room is. Dr. Loftus has agreed to conduct those discussions. as the first Vice Chair, and also the person with Dr. Pokkondi, who's facilitated on Tuesday the informal consultations. We will do that with a view of seeing can we narrow the range of issues that are there that we bring back to this room for this afternoon. Before we suspend this item though, I would like to deal with the noting of the reports. What I'm asking the board to do is to agree to the recommendations of PBAC and to note the reports contained in documents EB 158/36, EB 158/37, EB 158/38, EB 158/39 and EB 158/40. As we have previously covered in this meeting, noting these reports does not prejudice the position of any member state on the decisions that will be put, including the decision EB 158/36 Add 1 Rev 1. So I formally put that again. Is the Executive Board ready to agree the recommendations of the PBAC and to note the report contains in documents EB 158/36, EB 158/37, EB 158/38, EB 158/39 and EB 158/40. I see no objection. The reports are noted. Thank you. I now suspend this item to allow those informal consultations. We'll return to this after lunch. Thank you. Okay, we shall now consider item 29.2, Communications of the United Nations Secretary-General as Depository of the Constitution of the World Health Organization. The relevant report is contained in document EB 158/45. As agreed at the opening session, the two notifications will be considered as distinct topics within the discussion of this agenda item. This will allow for the good order of the proceedings and a structured discussion. I would like to do this in a slightly different way. Normally we would have a significant discussion on this report, then we would move to the decision items. In this case, there have been requests of me to make sure we have a clear separation of the consideration of the question of Argentina and a clear separation of the question of the matter related to the United States, which I intend to try and do. Therefore, what I would like to propose is that we start by noting the report. That's the report of the Secretariat, which provides information on this item. Obviously, I will open the floor and allow people to comment on the note, but I would encourage people to not, member states, to not deal with the substantive issue of Argentina as the country or US as the country, because I'd like to do them sequentially, Argentina followed by the US. When we move after noting the report, I have a proposal, because this is rather unusual. The proposal I would have is that obviously under our procedures, members of the Executive Board would normally take the floor first before discussing any item. However, in this instance, I would request that members of the Executive Board refrain from asking for the floor, and I'd like to give the opportunity for Argentina to make an initial statement, given that the matter relates directly to them, and they have circulated information, including information which puts a different perspective on the legal position to that of the Secretariat. I think this would allow all member states of the Executive Board to have information that they would find useful when framing their responses. So that is the proposal I'd have. We would then, I'm also proposing that not a member state of the Executive Board, but in the interest of the nature of this item being a little bit different, I would also propose to give them 3 minutes to make that intervention, as it's akin to an introductory comment. Subsequent interventions, I would ask them, if they intervene again, to keep to the standard 1 minute time limit for a non-member of the Executive Board. Once we have dealt with Argentina, which would also include deliberation of the conference paper that's before us, or the resolution from Israel, we could then conclude that item and then move on to discussion of the United States. So that is the way I intend to proceed. As I'm sure you're aware, this item has been a very significant item of conversation in the margins of these meetings and informal meetings. And so it is a delicate matter to handle, but I believe this is the best way forward, and I take your support. So with that moment, I do open the floor for any comments on EB 15845, but I would preferably move straight to noting that report so I could move on to the consideration of the matter of Argentina. So what I will put to the board, is the board happy to note the report contained in document EB 158/45? I see no objections. The report is noted. We will now move to the consideration of the membership of Argentina. As I've just signalled, I'm formally allowing, as I must, EB members to intervene if they wish. But if you don't seek the floor, I will go to Argentina to be able to give an opening statement. Is there any EB member that wants to take the floor? I see no request. Therefore, I will move to give the floor to the delegation of Argentina. Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much, Chair. I wish to thank in particular the attention paid to giving us the opportunity to speak to this item. For us, this is highly sensitive and of great importance. Distinguished members of the Executive Board, distinguished colleagues, and members, Argentina has the honor to present the draft resolution for your consideration under Agenda Item 29.2 on the sovereign decision of our country to withdraw from the organization. This text has a clear, limited scope. It is a text that is strictly procedural based on decisions already taken and noted. Especially, this takes note of a resolution of the World Health Assembly of 2025, the report of the DG, EB 5845, and the formal communication of our Minister of Foreign Affairs to the SG of the UN, notifying Argentina's decision to withdraw from WHO, effective as of 17 March 2026. Legally speaking, we want to be very clear. International law in addressing the sovereign right of countries to withdraw, well, there are certain procedures. In this case, we have fully fulfilled these requirements as under our officials. We notified the depositary in accordance with the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties and have strictly complied with the timeline in this relation. With regard to the Executive Board and the whole membership, in writing, in line with the formal discussions over past weeks, in this context, with regard to the WHA, the EB must consider this matter. This draft enables the next WHA to take a sovereign decision as regards a country on matters that were already formally communicated. We reaffirm the respect to multilateralism, to the membership, and in this respect, we are working in full transparency and in line with international standards. We would ask the EB to adopt this draft resolution, enabling the WHA to exercise its mandate as in line with the regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Argentina. I now invite contributions from the floor. We are considering this matter, and we are considering EB 158 Conf 10, which is the issue before the board for consideration. I ask EB member states who wish to take the floor to indicate in the usual way. I give the floor to Costa Rica.
Argentina has conveyed its intention to withdraw from the WHO, and we respect each country to decide according to their sovereign rights. But however, this is not a matter under the EB. This should be addressed through early dialogue between parties. It distracts from technical, urgent matters that gather us here. We should recognize that the leadership of WHO Secretariat has been exceptional, and we need to preventively address tensions as we are seeing today. This process must seek solutions preserving effective participation. We support inclusive mechanisms to resolve disputes and restore mutual trust in this way. We are concerned about the effects that this position would have in global public health. And diseases don't respect borders. Multilateral cooperation is needed. Members' exit would affect response to pandemics and other matters across borders. We should not be fragmenting coordination mechanisms at the international level. We reaffirm our commitment to WHO to handle technical matters, bolstering responses to health aspects and for our populations, and not on agendas to resolve disputes, settle disputes. We hope that this matter of WHO, its role can be reaffirmed. That is to ensure the well-being of all. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Norway.
Thank you, Chair. To achieve the highest attainable standard of health for all people, all states need to engage in active international cooperation. WHO is at the center of such cooperation. We therefore regret the desire of Argentina to withdraw from the organization. We thank the Secretariat for the report provided in this regard, and note that Argentina has expressed a different opinion when it comes to the matter raised in the report. Withdrawing from the WHO, also highlighted in the report and in discussions we have had over the last week with other member states, raises complex and complicated issues, both legal, political, as well as practical in nature. From our discussions, we have heard a range of different opinions on these matters. We have no time until the Health Assembly in May to try to understand these complexities better, and would suggest using that time wisely so that the Health Assembly can make an informed and well-thought-through decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to El Salvador, followed by Japan.
Thank you very much, Chair. El Salvador takes note of the report and the statement made by Argentina. We support the decision of a sovereign state. We believe this is a sovereign decision in a situation that might be bilateral between the country and the Secretariat. However, at the same time, we also note that other members of the board should not be, of course, interfering in decisions made by a sovereign state. So we support Argentina's decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Japan, followed by Panama.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to Argentina's intention to withdraw from the WHO, my delegation is not in a position to express a view on whether Argentina has a possibility to withdraw from the WHO. That said, from the perspective of international law, it is difficult to make a definitive legal assessment as to the correctness of either Argentina's interpretation or that of the Secretariat. In light of this, my delegation wishes to reserve its position. I thank you.
Thank you, Japan. I'll now turn to Panama, followed by Israel.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Panama respects the sovereign decision of the Republic of Argentina to withdraw from the organization. We support the draft decision, Conf 10. However, we, of course, regret the withdrawal of this country, which is a brotherly country to the Americas and the WHO, owing to the key role they play in international health. We would ask Argentina to please consider coming back to WHO when possible. Thank you.
In a moment, I'll come to you, Israel. I just want to ask a clarification question from Japan first. Japan, can I just clarify, when you say Japan will reserve its position, does that mean it is actually would block a consensus on the resolution in Conf 10? I'll let you think about that and go to Israel, because that's a very important thing for this board in considering what happens with this motion. I'll go to Israel and I'll come to Japan when you indicate you're ready to reply. Thank you, Israel.
Thank you, Chair. Israel acknowledges the withdrawal of Argentina from the WHO effective March 17, 2026. Argentina circulated its position on this matter ahead of this meeting and raised several points. The principle of sovereignty and independence of state entails that a state has the authority to join or withdraw from an international organization as it sees fit. As elaborated by Argentina, the WHO Constitution does not expressly prohibit a state from withdrawing from the organization. Furthermore, it is clear that the parties of the WHO intended to acknowledge the possibility of withdrawal of its members. This is indicated by the unanimous decision in 1948 by the WHO member states recognizing the United States ratification, which noted the right to withdraw from the organization. It is unfathomable that member states of the WHO meant to grant the right of withdrawal to one country while denying themselves the same right. Argentina also cited that the nature of the WHO Constitution allows the inference of a right of withdrawal, as it is a treaty establishing an international organization. This implies that the state parties retain rights and obligations that are broader than those of the entity created, and that they are entitled, in accordance with the principle of the independence of states, to determine whether they wish to remain in or withdraw from an international organization. We ask the Secretariat to attach this statement of mine to the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Spain, followed by Chile.
Thank you, Chair. Recognizing the legal complexity involved here and contradictory reports by legal counsel, the Republic of Argentina, between them, and both have robust arguments and valid ones. The reality is that Argentina will be withdrawing. They will not participate in WHO's activities or finance it. We see no difficulty in recognizing and acknowledging this, just to take note of the reality that the Republic of Argentina has decided to withdraw from the organization. We deeply regret this decision. We hope this can be reversed as soon as possible in the future in order to restore future cooperation between Argentina and other states that might wish to withdraw from WHO. We believe it is vital to do this on the basis of a legal reality that is sound and robust. And we believe that the Republic of Argentina, for these reasons, Spain would support that we simply take note of this factual statement. Thank you.
Spain, I might come back to you at some point just to clarify whether you think the resolution before us from Israel and Argentina is effectively doing that, or you would be proposing a different formulation by the board. I'm happy for you to come back now, or I'm happy for you to pause. You want to come back now?
Thank you, Chair. We can accept the text as it is currently. If there were other wording, that would reach consensus, we would also support that. Thank you.
Thank you, that is helpful. I now give the floor to Chile.
Nota de la notificación.
We take note of Argentina's wish to withdraw from WHO. Argentina is a founding member of this organization, and throughout its history, it has maintained active cooperation, constructive cooperation, and collective efforts to promote and protect public health regionally and globally. In this context, my country deeply regrets the decision announced by the Republic of Argentina. This country is a friendly country, a friend to us, and its capacity is broadly recognized. It has significantly contributed to this organization's work and the multilateral system. That said, in line with the sovereign right of Argentina, we are in favor of the draft decision presented here. We also wish to convey our wish to remaining open to dialogue and cooperation in line with the principles of universality of health and multilateralism that this organization undergirds. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other member states from the Executive Board seeking to take the floor. I now open the floor to member states who are not members of the Executive Board. The floor is open. I give the floor to Hungary.
Thank you, Chair. Hungary attaches great importance to global health cooperation and firmly believes that international dialogue and coordinated action are essential in addressing shared health challenges. In this regard, Hungary recognizes that the WHO stands at the center of the global health architecture. In this spirit, Hungary continues to constructively engage within the framework of the organization and actively participates in its work. At the same time, we fully acknowledge that other countries may arrive at different conclusions regarding their forms of engagement. We believe it is essential to respect the sovereign right of each nation to determine its own approach based on its national circumstances and priorities. Mutual respect for such decisions is a cornerstone of effective and balanced multilateral cooperation. Guided by this principle, Hungary supports the draft resolution submitted by Argentina and Israel under this item agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I now go to Paraguay, followed by France.
Thank you, Chair. Paraguay affirms that the decision of the Republic of Argentina with regard to the constitution of the WHO is fully substantiated by international law. The WHO does not explicitly prohibit states' withdrawal, and this is in line with the sovereignty and independence as under the UN Charter and customary law. Any sovereign state can decide on its belonging to an international organization. Therefore, Article 56 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties applies here. The right for each state to decide on its sovereignty. Thank you.
Thank you. I now go to France, followed by Switzerland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. France would like to thank the Director General for the report. We have taken note of the decision of the USA and Argentina that we regret. The issue is raised in the report is complex. The technical, legal, and financial implications linked to this decision are numerous. An in-depth assessment of all these applications would be necessary to allow the WHO to fulfill its mandate as a competent authority for the interpretation of the Constitution. Inter alia, France would be grateful to the Secretariat if it communicates to us the analysis of the potential implications of the situation. France remains fully convinced that international cooperation, which is effective and inclusive based on the universal mandate of WHO, remains vital to respond to public health challenges. Thank you.
I give the floor to Switzerland, followed by Haiti.
Thank you, Chair. Switzerland takes note of the notification received by the depositary concerning Argentina's and the United States denunciation of the WHO Constitution and recalls the sovereignty of member states in accordance with the UN Charter. We firmly believe in multilateralism and its universality, particularly in the context of global health. International collaboration and the exchange of information remains essential to protect our population. We hear that there are still different legal, political, technical questions on the conditions and the implication in this context on this agenda point. In this regard, we would all benefit from additional clarity for the WHO to be able to take an informed decision. Thank you.
I give the floor to Haiti.
Mr. Chair, dear colleagues, Haiti takes note of the decision announced by Argentina concerning its withdrawal from the World Health Organization. We also recall that in line with our rules of procedure, the board can only take note of such a decision. This belongs to the sovereignty of the state concerned. While reasserting this principle, we think that the situation should really raise questions among us. When Argentina wants to move away from the public health framework, it is a concern, and it is our responsibility to consider this in depth. WHO is independent. No country can face pandemics, health emergencies, etc. The response is not about fragmentation, but about dialogue, reform, and strengthening of trust. Haiti believes that it is crucial to improve transparency and accountability of governance, to strengthen the voice of governments in various decisions, to clarify warning mechanisms in crises, and ensure that technical guidelines remain based on science and adapted to national realities. This challenge is beyond one institution. We need to ensure that the cooperation system can protect our populations, in particular those that are most vulnerable. Haiti, therefore, calls for an open, inclusive dialogue in order to bolster more effective, more equitable, and more legitimate global health governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Zimbabwe, followed by Japan.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the 47 member states of the WHO African region, Zimbabwe wishes to recall that health is a global public good and that the WHO remains the central institution for ensuring international cooperation on health. We take note of the report and the submissions made by Argentina. We regret their request for withdrawal from the WHO and request them to reconsider in view of global health security. These requests raise important questions of interpretation and application. The Africa region suggests that the Executive Board transmits the report to the 79th World Health Assembly. In the interim, we request the WHO to organize further consultations on the legal implications of the withdrawal and request to continue dialogue with Argentina and to explore ways for resolving the matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I give the floor back to Japan.
Thank you, Chair. In response to the Chair's question earlier, my delegation does not intend to block consensus. What I sought to convey was that, given the legal complexities involved, it is difficult to undertake a legal assessment, and therefore my delegation wishes to reserve its position. I thank you, Chair.
Can I ask the legal counsel, because I think there is an interesting question here, when we adopt a position by consensus, what does it mean for a country to reserve their position in that context? If we, for example, took a vote, obviously people reserve their position by formally abstaining from a vote. Obviously people could also, member states could provide explanations on the record, which would repeat up the meeting summary, but I just want to have absolute clarity what reserving a position would mean in the context of a decision adopted by consensus.
Thank you. Yes, it's important to be clear that consensus is not the same as unanimity. Unanimity requires everyone to positively agree. Consensus simply requires the members who would be able to vote to decide not to block the consensus. So they are prepared to let the decision be adopted without blocking it. They may reserve their position, and we do occasionally have this. You will see that on other items, occasionally when we have a decision by consensus, a member who has reservations will put those reservations on the record, but make clear that they are not blocking consensus on the adoption of the decision before the board.
Thank you very much. That's very useful. In terms of, are there any other member states, EB or non, who'd like to take the floor? Otherwise, I will move to sum up this item. Costa Rica, you have the floor.
Tal vez aquí no tengo la claridad.
I'm not sure I'm very clear on what is being asked. It seems to me that there is a procedure for a state to leave, and there's a legal discussion. We're not sure whether a state's decision on its sovereign right should be subject to such a discussion by legal. And so here the question is, what is preventing us to take a vote? What I see today is there is a wish by Argentina, and I do regret this decision, but there's a decision by Argentina, and there's what about the decision to be taken about a sovereign state?
So Costa Rica, as far as I'm concerned, the decision before us as a board is the resolution that is contained in the co-sponsored conference paper by Argentina and Israel, which is EB 158 Conference 10, which essentially acknowledges the withdrawal of Argentina from the organisation. That's what the word's effectively saying. I mean, I'm happy for the Secretariat to read them out. My view here is that everyone seems to have had the say that they intended to have a say. What I would be proposing to do is I have not yet heard any member state say that they intend to block consensus. I've not heard a member state ask for a vote. So in the normal way, I would, in the due course, just ask the board whether they support the decision contained in EB 158 Conf 10. If no delegation calls for the floor, as is the usual practice, then we would adopt that decision. That's what's before us at the moment. So we now have two more flags go up, but that is essentially where we get to. Obviously, that's in the context that no one either says that they wish to block consensus or at least ask for a vote on this matter. I hope that's clear. Thank you. I'll now give the floor to Norway, followed by Spain. I know Norway made comments earlier about concerns about uncertainty, but I'll go to Norway.
Thank you, Chair. And for the record, Norway would also like to reserve its position in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Spain?
Thank you, Chair. Regretfully, I'm sorry to take the floor once again. Just for clarification, regrettably, I don't have the text before me, but does this text ask the WHA to take note of a decision, but it does not exclude the WHA from going back to this matter? Is that correct? Is my reading correct?
So I think on this one, I will pass to legal counsel. Maybe it might be worthwhile legal counsel reading out the conference paper and explaining what you believe the legal import of that. And I think the question from Spain is essentially a version of, has the EB preempted the WHA, or is the matter still open to the WHA? Legal counsel will comment, but obviously the WHA can always override us on any matter. We make recommendations on a whole range of things, but I'll pass to legal counsel.
Thank you very much. Perhaps it would help if I actually read out the draft conference paper, and then I will explain my understanding of it. So the draft is a draft decision. It starts by saying the Executive Board, taking note of the decision WHA 7525 and the report by the Director General, decided to recommend to the 79th World Health Assembly the adoption of the following resolution. The 79th World Health Assembly, paragraph 1, taking note of the report by the Director General, paragraph 2, having noted the communication from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Trade and Worship of the Argentine Republic, notifying the United Nations Secretary General that the Argentine Republic withdraws from the World Health Organization effective as of 17 March 2026. And then the operative paragraph is as follows: resolves to acknowledge the withdrawal of the Argentine Republic from the World Health Organization effective as of 17 March 2026. So to be clear, if you adopt this resolution, what you will be doing is making a recommendation to the Health Assembly. You will not yourself be deciding the issue. You will be making a recommendation that the Health Assembly not simply decides, but actually resolves to acknowledge the withdrawal of the Argentine Republic from WHO, effective from the 17th of March. So it would be your recommendation to the Health Assembly. The Health Assembly would then take a decision either based on your recommendation or otherwise.
Given that, I think that's a very useful explanation. Is there any other delegation wishes to take the floor? I recognise, give the floor to DPR Korea.
Thank you, Chair. We'd like to simply stress that any country, even though it withdrew from the WHO, that country is obliged to immediately inform the organization of the outbreak of the disease occurred in its territory, as there is no border for infection disease or the pandemic, and it spreads irrespective of the member states and non-member states. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other delegation that wishes to take the floor? I see no further delegations wishing to seek the floor, and therefore I am going to ask the board, do they accept, do they support the draft decision as contained in document EB158/conf. Apologies, Republic of Korea.
The Republic of Korea would like to reserve its position as well. Thank you.
Thank you. What I will do, I feel that if anyone else is entering, they may be, for example, reserving their position. What I intend to do is move this motion. If any other country wishes to come in and make any further comment about as an explanation of decision or explanation of action, I would leave that open to any other delegation. So, we'll try again. Does the Executive Board adopt the draft decision contained in document EB158/conf10, which is before the board now? I see no objections. It is therefore adopted. Are there any other delegations that wish to? I recognise Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, Australia wishes to acknowledge the extensive contribution of Argentina to the work of the WHO over many years, and we thank the Director General for his report. As the report flags, Argentina's notification of withdrawal raises numerous issues that do require careful consideration. Australia remains committed to strengthening international cooperation, including working actively with the WHO to protect and promote the health of all people. While we hope Argentina may resume full participation in the WHO's work in years to come, we also wish to support the continued engagement with them, should they wish, in the meantime. We are therefore open to their continued participation as appropriate in WHO lines of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other? I recognise Egypt. Do you have the floor?
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And Egypt actually is fully respecting the country's sovereignty and at the same time the rule of multilateralism. But based on a legal request from our delegation, we would like from here till the Assembly to receive more legal clarification about the when a request is put from certain countries to withdraw, about explicit legal clarification about the process, the rules of procedures, and the WHO, pathway, clarifying even the implication for that withdrawal on different member states. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Argentina.
Señor Presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for giving me the floor once again. Thank you to the membership for its understanding on the position of this member state. For Argentina, bearing in mind the concerns by the DPRK, we will not be isolated from the world. We will continue to respect all the rules that exist to date. We cooperate very closely with the Pan American Health Organization, and we will strengthen this even further. The DG of PAHO, in fact, next week is coming to Argentina. And it should be clear to the whole membership that we will not, we're not leaving this world. To be very clear, as was mentioned, the pandemic knows no borders, and as a Western civilized country, we understand that we need to respect rules and work with the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now intend to, I don't see no other delegations seeking the floor. We now have concluded the consideration of, apologies, Lebanon.
Thank you, Chair. While Lebanon respects Argentina's national sovereignty, position and aspirations, and while engaging with the procedure in a responsible manner consistent with Lebanon's role within this executive board, we need to put on record that Lebanon fully dissociates itself from the EB member who submitted the draft. I thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other delegations that would like to take the floor on the issue we've just dealt with respect to the membership of Argentina? I see no further requests for the floor. We will now, we've now concluded that, and we have fulfilled that arrangement to keep it separate from the discussion of the United States. We shall now move to the round of interventions on the notification by the United States. I do note there is no decision before us on this, so it is merely a discussion about the United States. We've already noted the report. We've dealt with Argentina, but this is open to any delegations to make any comments they would want on the position, the request notification by the United States. I open the floor in the first instance to Executive Board members. Okay, I take it no one is seeking the floor from the Executive Board. I open the same, Israel.
Chair, on January 22nd, 2025, the U.S. deposited its note regarding its withdrawal from the WHO. The U.S. withdrawal became effective January 22nd, 2026. Any attempt to compel states against their national decisions is an infringement of their sovereign rights. There is no valid reason to further discuss this matter in any WHO forum. Further discussions only consume the limited resources this organization has without carrying any actual impact on the ground. Other issues of dispute between a member state and the organization do not affect the right of withdrawal in the context of the WHO. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Israel. I again declare the floor open for all member states present here. I give the floor to China.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I noted that most of the members of the Executive Bureau remain silent on this important issue. I can believe that we are witnessing history now. Mr. Chair, as the most representative and authoritative intergovernmental international health organization, the WHO bears a significant responsibility in global health governance. All parties should firmly uphold multilateralism and solidarity and safeguard the authority and the standing of the WHO. Major countries in particular should lead by example. They should not treat the WHO as something to be used as it fits and abandon when not, nor should they bypass the WHO, set up an alternative mechanisms. Countries should adhere to rule of law and should not selectively fulfill their international obligations and commitments, and should not place domestic political agenda above international law and governments. The issue of withdrawal is complex and sensitive. Members cannot enter or exit at their will. At present, there are certain gaps and ambiguity in the WHO's rule regarding membership changes. Based on fairness and transparency, necessary adjustments and improvements should be made to better respond to the new circumstances and requirements on global health governance. 谢谢中国。看到另外还有人要求发言。 好像又撤回了。哥伦比亚是否要求发言？朝鲜，朝鲜有请。谢谢主席。朝鲜也注意到了最近的 WHO 发言人的发言，是涉及到美国退出世卫组织的情况。 稍微等一下，好像有翻译的问题。
So I'm getting through the English channel, I'm getting the floor of the Chinese. So can the interpreters please just make sure we can understand you and understand the points you're making? Can we just get a check of the system and someone indicate to me when we have the correct translation coming through each of the channels? There, I have got a thumbs up. DPR Korea, please continue.
Thank you, Chair. DPRK takes note of the recent statement made by the spokesperson for WHO concerning the withdrawal of the United States from the organization. It is our view that the obligation of discharging arrears of the assessed contribution due to the WHO is applicable to all withdrawing countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else seeking to take the floor? I see no further requests for the floor, and therefore I close agenda item 29.2. This takes us on to agenda item 30. We shall now consider agenda item 30, governance implications for WHO arising from the reassignment of a member state from one region to another. The relevant report is contained in document EB 158/46. The board is invited to note the report and to provide guidance. The floor is now open for discussion. Kindly indicate your intention to speak should you wish to take the floor. I will first go, as usual, to members of the Executive Board. I see no request for the floor from the Executive Board. I now open this to all member states to consider item 30. I see no requests from the floor on this matter. I assume the Secretariat doesn't want to make any comment in this context. There are no questions being asked. So on that basis, I've already asked the non-member states. I should have asked, sorry, observers, UN bodies and IGOs, but they have chosen not to intervene except on one matter from Garvey, so I assume that's not the case. As I see no more requests from the floor, may I take the board as ready to note the report contained in document EB 158/46. I see no objection. The report is noted. That concludes the board's consideration of item 30. Let us now consider item 31, provisional agenda of the 79th World Health Assembly and date and place of the 159th session of the Executive Board. The relevant reports are contained in 3 documents. EB 158/47, provisional agenda of the 79th World Health Assembly. The board is invited to consider a draft decision to approve the provisional agenda. EB 158/47 add 1. The board is invited to consider whether to change the dates of the 79th World Health Assembly and accordingly the 159th session of the Executive Board. And EB 158/48, date and place of the 159th session of the Executive Board. The board is invited to consider a draft decision to convene the 159th session of the board on 25 and 26 May 2026. I invite the Secretariat to provide any update in line with the board's decisions this week. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. With respect to the provisional agenda of the 79th World Health Assembly, the Secretariat would like to propose 2 adjustments. First of all, I understand that when the PBAC met last week, it recommended that EB 158 adopt a decision on reform of the global health architecture and the UN 80 initiative, which would request that the Director General undertake certain actions on the design of a process during the intersessional period and submit a report to World Health Assembly 79, the session in May. EB 158 has not considered the draft decision yet, but should the board decide to adopt it, then an additional item will be added to the agenda for WHA 79. Second of all, I would like to draw your attention to the 2 reports on the occupied Palestinian territory and health conditions therein. Item 14.5 of the WHA 79 agenda, entitled Health Conditions in the Occupied Palestinian Territory, including East Jerusalem, in Committee A, and Item 17, entitled Health Conditions in the Occupied Palestinian Territory, including East Jerusalem and in the occupied Syrian Golan, in Committee B. In the interest of good agenda management and resource efficiency, which increasingly must define the work of WHO's governing bodies, given financial constraints, it is proposed that these 2 reports be grouped under the item in Committee B, as doing so would advance agenda management and resource efficiency, as just stated. This would mean that the provisional agenda of the Health Assembly would be modified with these sub-items so reflected. This way, it would be clear that both mandates will be fulfilled while grouped together under this one agenda item. One way for this to be implemented would be to have the current agenda item 17 with 2 separate bullet points, one for the report of the Director General pursuant to Resolution 156/R3, and one for the report of the Director General pursuant to Health Assembly Decisions 78/16. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much. The floor is now open for discussion. Kindly raise your nameplate. No, don't do that. Oh, sorry, apologies. You did just poke me before. Director General.
Thank you, Chair.
As you know, the UN Security Council welcomed the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict last November through its resolution 2803. This holds real promise for advancing peace and, by association, health in a region with such urgent needs. Peace is built one brave step at a time. It's never a single moment. It's a commitment we renew every day. Peace endures only when we carry it forward together. Each of us can contribute through our decisions in the EB and the WHA. Today, I propose one concrete step, combining the two WHA agenda items, Sigrid indicated earlier, into a single discussion. I have consulted with Palestine, and there is readiness to move forward. And I thank Palestine's ambassador, Ambassador Ibrahim, for his engagement on this matter. By taking this step together, we not only foster a more constructive environment for our governance deliberations, but also contribute in a small way to the success of the peace initiative. I thank you, and Chair, back to you.
Thank you very much. For my own clarification, we will ultimately move on to the adoption of the agenda. Is the agenda in AB 15847 consistent with that, or it needs to be amended?
Needs to be amended.
Okay, so when we come to the decision, we will make that clear in the amendment to that. Thank you. I now have opened the floor on this question. Obviously, as per usual, the floor is open in the first instance to members of the Executive Board. I will take interventions from the Executive Board first. Therefore, I will go to Lebanon, followed by the Central African Republic.
Thank you, Chair. Just for the purpose of more clarity and to avoid any confusion, can we put the proposal on the screen that you just mentioned regarding the two items with one report? Is it? Can we ask the Secretariat to do that?
Again, I'm a little reluctant to put on screen, but I would like them to point to, we have in our papers, we have the draft agenda, which is contained in paragraph 4 of EB 158/47. If the Secretariat could just indicate which of the paragraphs, which of the parts of that agenda in that paragraph would change, that would be very helpful. Do you want mine?
I can see it from there.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So we would be looking at 14.5 on the agenda item 14, health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, and it would be moved under item 17, where we would have two sub-items, one entitled health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and in the occupied Syrian Golan, and the second one being currently 14.5, health conditions in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. Two reports.
Lebanon, you have the floor.
So we will omit 14.5.
Microphone, please.
Sorry, you need. Sorry, we just have to give you the microphone so the interpreters can hear. No.
Okay. So to clarify, so we will omit 14.5 and we will have 17.1, 17.2.
We'll be moving 14.5
okay.
and then rename it as 17.1, 17.1.2.
Yeah. Okay.
With the same title that is currently under 14.5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lebanon. Central African Republic, you have the floor, followed by Egypt.
Chairman, the CAI has the honor to make the statement on behalf of the 47 members of the African region. We thank the Secretariat for the clarity and the quality of the preparatory documents concerning the draft agenda of the 79th WHA and the date and place of the 159th session of the EB. In the global context marked by persistent health emergencies, climate humanitarian crisis, and financial constraints that affect many health systems, the continuity, predictability, and efficiency of work of WHO governing bodies are more important than ever. Regarding the 79th WHA, the African region approves the proposal according to which the WHO session will open on Monday, 25th of May, 2026, and will conclude at the latest on Saturday, 30th of May, so that all meetings can be held at the Palais des Nations in Geneva. We approve the draft agenda, of course, with the amendments that the EB would like to adopt to cover global health priorities, in particular UHC, preparedness and response to public health emergencies, the fight against communicable and non-communicable diseases, and promotion of health of vulnerable populations. Regarding the 159th session of the EB, the African region approves the proposal to hold the session on the 25th and 26th of May 2026 at the WHO headquarters in Geneva, immediately after the 79th WHA. The fact that they will be so close in time will ensure consistent follow-up to the WHO decisions, will strengthen institutional continuity, and will bolster the governance of the organization. Support the draft agenda, which includes a follow-up to the results of the agenda, the work of PBAC, and the preparedness and response to health emergencies. We take note of satisfaction of the provision according to which modalities of the sessions will be adapted in case there are constraints affecting face-to-face meetings, guaranteeing thereby resilience and continuity of WHO work. On behalf of the 47 members of the WHO African region, we reassert our commitment to actively participate in discussions and decisions that will shape the global health agenda in a spirit of solidarity and international cooperation. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Egypt.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. Just a matter for more clarity, my question to the Secretariat, would that grouping of items would affect on the subsequent contents of the post items? I mean, the merge, maybe there is a possibility for merging any decisions or resolution inside that particular items or not? Would be keep separate as it is? And again, I'm echoing my colleague from Lebanon about putting the sub-items on the screen in order to get more clarity about the wording and phrasing of those couple of items to be merged. Thank you very much.
I will ask the Secretariat to respond.
Just to clarify, we're not talking about merging any report. We are grouping two agenda items under one agenda item, under one session, where we're going to discuss this, so that we have all the reports that are pertinent to that item in one place. Currently, what you have is, with one report going in Committee A and one report going in Committee B, there is a risk that they might happen at the same time, making it difficult for smaller delegations to cover both items. Also, we would not have the benefit of issues that are being raised in one committee versus the issues being raised in a session in the other committee to be taken together or addressed together. So having two reports that are essentially covering overlapping mandates in one place, where all delegations can be present, including at the ambassadorial level or higher, that would then help our discussion and advance the public health agenda for these items. I hope that may address your question, Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the Central African Republic, followed by DPR Korea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I simply wanted to apologize regarding an error in my presentation regarding 159th session of the EB. Instead of supporting the session on 25th, 26th, May 26th, it would say the 1st to 2nd June 2026 at the WHO headquarters. I apologize for this mistake.
Thank you for that clarification. DPR Korea.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation proposed once again, as we did earlier, to merge the items 14.4 with 14.1 as they both deal with the health emergency issues. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further EB members seeking the floor. Therefore, I open the floor formally to all EB member states who are not members of the EB, and I give the floor to Palestine.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Briefly, just everyone is confused here in this room. The merging and merging the reports. This is the deal. Merging the discussion on both reports, on Palestine resolution and Palestine Golan, Syrian Golan decision. Merging the two reports and the discussion in one place, Committee B, to accommodate the small delegations to be in one room and voting in the same room. Merging the decision and the resolution, this is not the case at all. This is not on the table. We have two separate things. We have to keep, so 17.1, the resolution, 17.2, the decision, and 17.3, the both reports together in one discussion. This is the deal. I thank you.
I give the floor to Kuwait.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. On behalf of EMRO, I'm making this intervention based on the agreement between the Secretariat and the Palestinian Mission. As far as we know, these has been agreed upon based on the request by the Secretariat to hold the meetings where voting might take place in a single place, because the headquarters of the United Nations does not allow to hold the meetings for both committees A and B according to previous arrangements. And currently there are works going on in the building of the headquarters, and therefore we would like the Secretariat we refuse to merge the two items, as was expressed by my colleague from the Mission of Palestine, and we also request not to combine them, and that becomes a practice in the future. We had agreed to such a merger, to merge the two reports based on a request to take any voting in one single place, taking into consideration those delegations that have maybe a smaller number of delegates, and therefore we ask for clarifications from the Secretariat. Thank you.
Egypt, you have the floor.
I'm very sorry, Chair, for interruption, but I would recommend and support the request from my colleague from Kuwait about when it comes to the voting on certain resolutions. We agree definitely to be in the same place for a matter of accommodation, flexibility, and easiness of the conduction of the process. But I would recommend that it will be for this year, for this assembly, and to leave any not to be generalized for the coming assemblies, and to accept it within the coming assembly only. Thank you so much.
DG will come in a second, but my understanding is that all we are doing is adopting the agenda for the next assembly. There's no such thing, I think, in this sense of locking it in for future. The EB would consider the agenda next year, presumably in light of the experience they have of whether this worked. I will ask the Secretariat to clarify, but maybe I just give what I've heard, so that if I've got it wrong, then I suspect other people might have it wrong as well. My understanding is that you are moving 14.5 under 17, becomes 17.1 and 17.2. You could have separate papers for those if you want, or you could have a joint paper. You could have separate. You would have separate papers. So substantively, you are still having the same division of information. Obviously, you can have resolutions which are specific. You can have as many resolutions as you want, or conference papers or others, and therefore there's no sense that you have to force a merger of any issues into one decision. That's totally open to the committee. So that is the proposal. It's really been proposed, as I hear it, as a very practical matter, that this is a sensitive issue. Delegations want to be able to have the right people there, and allows the discussion to happen at one time rather than potentially split across. So that is what I understand the proposal. I would just ask maybe the Secretariat, I do note Saudi Arabia is asking the floor. If with the indulgence of Saudi Arabia, I'll just ask the Secretariat to confirm that. If that's the understanding, then I'll pass to Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I confirm it will be 2 agenda items as sub-items with 2 separate documents, 2 reports, same as it would be if you would have the agenda item under 14. There's absolutely no other change. Same as Palestine just confirmed, there's no other change than having the 2 reports taken up in the same place, at the same time, so that all delegations can discuss with everything in front of them, and should there be a vote, that voting takes place and everybody can participate, and we have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Saudi Arabia, followed by Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, for that clarification. I only wanted to make sure that I have understood the clarification, and I'm asking my colleagues in Palestine to emphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Ukraine, followed by Palestine.
Dear Chair, I would like to ask you to comment on which agenda items proposed to unify by DPRK, because we are not clearly understand is it about Ukraine or not. Thank you.
It's not about Ukraine.
The only proposal for us at the moment, unless DPR Korea said something I didn't catch, is the merging, taking 14.5 and putting it under 17. But DPR Korea, did you suggest another agenda change? That's what I think our Ukrainian colleague is asking.
Thank you. We have proposed to merge the item 14.4 with 14.1, which is separate from the Palestinian issue. Thank you.
Okay, I will go to Palestine now, but thank you for that, DPR Korea. I assume what you are saying is that 14.4 would cease to exist or become a sub-item under 14.1. Is that what you're proposing? Yes, okay, thank you. We'll go to Palestine. Palestine, you have the floor.
For taking the floor for the second time. Just again, we are okay of merging the reports. I'm talking about the reports. Merging, it's okay, no problem. We will have one discussion on both reports. This is okay. But merging the resolution and the decision, this is not doable at all. I think legally it's cannot. So we'll have, as we mentioned, to help everyone, to accommodate all the delegations, small delegations more, to be in the same room, in the same time for voting on Palestine. We'll have many votes, as you know. It will not be easy. We apologize in advance to all of you, but it is not our fault from Palestine. You know what will happen during this session, and we will help you. We are here to help everyone. We are doing our best, believe us. We are doing our best to help everyone. I thank you.
Thank you. I turn to Ukraine.
Chair, we do not agree to unify point 14.4. It's a point about Ukraine with any another point. Thank you.
Thank you. Poland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, sir. We fully support the position of Ukraine. We think that the situation there is too severe to put this item in more general item. I think that there are two separate issues, and we have to keep it like it stands now. Thank you.
Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Germany also firmly opposes merging the agenda points 14.1 and 14.4. The war in Ukraine is the result of an unprovoked aggression, and this is separate from the other emergencies, so we call for 14.1 and 14.4 not to be merged. Thank you very much.
Palestine, you have the floor.
Apologize again, Mr. Chairperson. Just one addition about our subject on Palestine. To know this is exceptional. This is just to help everyone. It's not, to put something forever. It's just an exception from Palestine to help for this time. I thank you.
Thank you, Palestine. I think the comment's already been made that this is only this agenda for this assembly that we're discussing here. I'll now turn to France and then Spain.
Not Spain first,
Oh, sorry, apologies. Spain first as an EB member, then France.
Thank you, Chair. Briefly, I just wanted to support Palestine's request based on practices and also to endorse the position of Ukraine, because based on the attacks on medical staff in this war against a European country, well, that merits very careful attention by our body. Thank you.
France, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be very brief as well. France supports the statement made by Ukraine on the position of regrouping 4 and 1, and also we support the position expressed by Palestine. Thank you.
I see no further requests from the floor by delegations. This is the way I intend to proceed. DPR Korea, I feel there's quite a lot of resistance to the merging of 14.1 and 14.4. And so unless you choose to continue to insist on that, I don't think there's a consensus for that. What I would intend to do is put to the EB whether they're prepared to adopt the decision for the provisional agenda of the 79th World Health Assembly contained in paragraph 4 of document EB 158/47 with one change, which is the moving of item 14.5 under item 17. So there would be two sub-items that would be discussed together, but they would be distinct sub-items with distinct reports, and there would in fact be potentially distinct decisions related to the two items. I don't think we need all that in decision, but the decision would be essentially to move 14.5 into 17 as a grouped item. And to add a new item on global health. And to add a new item on global health, which would be
architecture and UN80.
Global health architecture and UN80, which I assume is not controversial since we're discussing that. So, just to be clear, my proposal is that to ask the Executive Board to adopt the provisional agenda of the 79th World Health Assembly contained in paragraph 4 of document EB 158/47 with two changes. One, to move item 14.5 under item 17 as a grouped item, and to also add an item on the global health architecture and UN80 to the World Health Assembly 79th World Health Assembly agenda. Is the board prepared to adopt the draft decision that I've just read out? I see no objection. It is so adopted. Thank you. We shall now open item 32, committees of the Executive Board, and consider the two sub-items together. In relation to item 32.1,
Sorry, Chair, we had the proposal from Africa
Yeah.
about the date change.
Apologies. Apologies. So I have to go back to the item. That has dealt with the agenda of the Executive of the World Health Agreement Assembly, but there is also another draft decision which deals with the timing of the World Health Assembly. In paragraph 4 of document 4, there is a timing of the World Health Assembly. I believe a number of member states have asked for a different timing. I'll ask the Secretariat to speak to this issue.
Thank you. The document in question 15848 sets out that we have a logistical challenge because the reservation of our usual rooms or our requested rooms in the Palais at the United Nations Secretariat here in Geneva was not possible. And what we set out basically is that this will mean that there will be Committee B meetings held here in headquarters in this auditorium. We also set out that should should the board wish to change the date of the World Health Assembly by 1 week later, all rooms would be available as originally planned at the Palais. We also inquired whether there were any other weeks in the proximity where all rooms would be available, and unfortunately the answer is no. WHO is also not the only organization that has been affected by some scheduling issues in the Palais. ILO has the same issue, and they also opted for a split venue, so they are holding some of their meetings in the ILO headquarters and some in a third venue even. So we heard from Central African Republic, speaking on behalf of the African region, that they would be proposing to consider a change in the date of the World Health Assembly. So we would need a decision from the board on do we maintain the date as originally planned, or with a second meeting room here in WHO headquarters, or would you wish to move the date of the assembly, and if yes, to what dates? Back to you, Chair. I see we have some speakers.
Just before we go to the speakers, for the Secretariat, in my OneNote, I don't have 15847 add 1. That's add 1.
So this is the decision, but it's already been adopted. No, it hasn't. This is on the dates.
Sorry for the confusion. The document, the relevant document is actually EB 158/47 Add 1. The proposal from the Secretariat, the current proposal, which was actually decided by the Executive Board in EB 157/11/2025, was to have the World Health Assembly from the 18th of May to the 23rd of May, so it's Monday to Saturday. I understand that some delegations are requesting it to be moved back 1 week to the following week, where there is a room availability question that's been alerted by the Secretariat. So that is the question that's being put. Apologies for the confusion. I'll now go to Israel, followed by Costa Rica.
Chair, I want to relate to the issue that you just closed. It was so fast I didn't have a chance to make a statement, so I just want to make a short statement on the matter. Recently, the border peace for the future of Gaza was moved ahead, and the UN Security Council adopted the way forward with regards to the border peace. This brings a new atmosphere, a new direction to the whole region. And I would have expected that this body here would understand that and not continue with the duplication of resolutions. So this cosmetic exercise that we moved 2 separate items on the Palestinian issue to the World Health Assembly to be discussed in a regrouping under 2 separate items, 2 separate decisions, is ludicrous. It's a waste of time. Where are the reforms that we are talking about? There should be 1 item to discuss this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I now go to Costa Rica.
Volviendo al tema de las fechas. Going back to the dates for the World Health Assembly, it would seem that if, for example, we will maintain the dates that were originally planned rather than a change, which we would support, and on request by other countries, we need to meet the timetable and program for each of these. Small delegations cannot move around, even less so with the distances between the 2 venues. And so there's an initial timetable that would be most suitable for participating delegations. And the proposal, as was agreed at last year's assembly, the idea is to keep the originally proposed timetable and dates. Thank you.
I give the floor to Panama.
Gracias, Presidente.
Thank you very much. As regards the dates, we believe that for practical reasons and to ensure delegations' optimal functioning, we should maintain 25 to 30 May for the Assembly. This is a decision that was taken by the EB in the past for dates to be held on the week of the 18th. But that would not be very practical because delegations would have to move around. And how would we address matters when we're talking about very small delegations? Thank you.
Thank you. This is somewhat of an unusual discussion 3 months before an assembly to be debating in this forum what the date will be. That is not to trivialise the matter. I'm sure it's important for people. We do need a way forward. The proposal I would be putting is that the dates must stay where they currently are, which is the 18th of May to the 23rd of May. And the reason I'm putting that is that looking at EB 158/47 Add 1, there's actually not a draft decision here. It just says consider it, so that we need to be concrete about it.
But we need to decide.
We need to decide. So my proposal is the board agrees that the 79th World Health Assembly be held in Geneva, opening on Monday the 18th of May 2026 and should close no later than Saturday the 23rd of May 2026. That is the proposal. Does any delegation wish to take the floor to challenge that proposal? I see no one taking the floor. That is, sorry?
And then we need a decision that the EP will take place on the dates.
Okay, yes. So that, oh, sorry, Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question before we take that decision. So if we have that set of dates for the two separate committees, will we be having a same venue or it will be a different venue? Just to have that clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nepal. So if we keep the current dates, we will have a second venue here in Geneva, namely this room here in the Secretariat for Committee B. The Committee A and plenary will take place, because we need a bigger room for plenary in particular, will take place in the Palais, in the Hall of Assembly. So that is what you have here. This is the consequence. And once we have decided on this, we need to decide then to have the date of the EB, of the Executive Board following the World Health Assembly on the 2 days following the World Health Assembly, the Monday and the Tuesday traditionally, and we decide on that date.
So, in fact, I might combine these two things, just do it in one thing. The proposal I'm putting forward for consideration. Sorry, are you coming back, Nepal? Sorry, Nepal.
Thank you for that clarification. As a delegation that is resource constrained, for us it will be difficult to manage our engagement if the two substantive committees are convening at different venues, one at the Palais, one here at the World Health Assembly. And let's also think in the practical logistical terms, right? The traffic during the assembly is not going to be the normal traffic, the road traffic. Even if we can arrange shuttle from here to there, I don't know how practical that will be, because last year we remember some of the agenda items were shifted from one committee to another. So these are the very logistical concerns without having prejudice to the decision that the EB will take place today, EB will take today. So we wanted to inquire how that logistical gap will be addressed if we are going to have two different venues for two different committees. And it's not just about one day, it's about the entire week that will have the assembly proceedings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, I hear you. There will be increased shuttle service, so we're going to commit to that. So unfortunately, that has cost implications, but we will strive to address this. And secondly, obviously, it will have an impact on agenda management. So that means that the flexibility that sometimes we have to move one item from one committee to the other very quickly, we will not have for this assembly. So we'll have to factor in time for people to actually take the shuttle and move between venues. It also has an implication on interpretation, where we cannot use the same interpretation teams. All of that we will be, of course, taking due consideration and plan accordingly. That it does not come without some hurdles, that is understood, but we can make it work. So we have checked on that, and there are ways to make it work. I would also flag that not only the shuttle is a possibility, but obviously the Palais is not that far away. Actually, it's a 10-minute walk, not even. There's a pedestrian or almost pedestrian walkway between the Palais and WHO that could be used for those delegations that want to make it on foot. That would also be an opportunity to get some exercise in. We're trying to make the best of a situation, you can tell, right? So with that, I hope I have been able to clarify.
And perhaps we might put water stations on the walking route, maybe a couple of bananas if someone's potassium gets a little bit low. I give the floor to France, followed... Oh, Nepal, sorry. Nepal, followed by France.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the Secretariat for that clarification. One additional question. Again, this pertains to the logistics of it. For the Palais, there will be there is a security arrangement, right? You have to pass through the screening and everything, right? And I think that would also apply here. So we also need to factor in those elements, because moving from one place to another will not be that efficient as such. The distance is not the only factor that we need to consider. So just putting it there so that the delegations can also think about that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I give the floor to France.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Chair. Indeed, of course, there's a benefit to walking, as we know, and we're all encouraged to walk as much as possible. In any event, a few comments. We wish to support what was stated by Nepal. We would prefer to have a limited number of venues for the Health Assembly. It's hard enough when we're in one place to juggle between various meetings with various officials. So we believe, France believes, that we should have one venue, even if it means the Health Assembly would be moved by a week. Next, on dates. I thought I heard 28 May, but that's perhaps because I was listening to the French. What are the dates for the second option if we move the Assembly by a week, please?
So the current timing is Monday the 18th of May to Saturday the 23rd of May, and the consequence of that would be that the Executive Board would meet on the 25th and the 26th of May. The alternate approach would be to defer that 1 week, which would be commencing on Monday the 25th of May and running through to the Saturday, whatever that date is, 30th of May. And presumably that would mean that the EB would be the Monday and Tuesday of the following week if you move there. I mean, it seems to me this is one of these issues where we have a trade-off between more convenient venue in the second week, but we have a World Health Assembly that is currently in the diaries of a very large number of people, not just member states, but non-member states, people arranging side events, very senior people from around the world, that pivoting a date with 3 months' notice is changing the diaries of a lot of people that may not be that straightforward to change. I think that is essentially the trade-off in front of us. I just checked with the Secretariat. I mean, this is a standard resolution of the Executive Board. It's within the Executive Board's competence to make it. So either we make this decision by consensus, or if a delegation says, no, I don't think we can reach consensus, the usual practice we would move to a vote. Seems high stakes to move to a vote on the timing of the Darbar, but I don't doubt there are genuine issues associated with servicing different venues. I will go to the call now, so I will start with Bulgaria and follow Q8.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for, thanks to the Secretariat for giving the clarifications. And Bulgaria, being a country of small delegation, would consider positively this suggestion to transfer the dates for the next week, because it will certainly be more efficient for our delegation to participate in all the formats of the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to Spain.
Thank you very much. My delegation strongly prefers maintaining the predefined dates for reasons that were explained by yourself. The agendas, our ministers' timetables, this has been set for some time already. If we change the dates, there is a risk that we would not have a sufficiently relevant presence at the Health Assembly. And we're not certain that we have room availability. So that would be the worst of both worlds if we shift these already agreed dates. Thank you.
Yes, I'll briefly go to the Secretariat. I think they have a comment on the room availability.
Just to clarify, yes, we do have certainty of the room availability for that later week, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give the floor to Poland.
Thank you, Chair. We'd like to ask you for one clarification, technical, because we will have a meeting of World Health Assembly Executive Board, but there is also a PBEC meeting. And in case we would decide to move the dates, what about this meeting? Whether it would be moved as well, or it will be according to the current schedule?
Secretary? I think you'd have to move it.
We could move it, yes.
I mean, look, speaking as a delegation that comes from a long way away, the logic for us, I think, would be, I'm in the chair at the moment, but speaking for anyone who travels 30 hours to a meeting, I think the logic is you move all the meetings because there's common membership across those committees. I'll now go to Q8, followed by China. Q8, oh yes, yes, Q8, you have the floor.
Click again.
Click again.
No, thank you, Chair. Just a hand down, thank you.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China supports the proposal by Nepal and France. We suggest that the meeting would be held in the same venue. We would like to see that the Secretariat in the future strengthen its coordination and communication with Palais des Nations in order to avoid the same circumstances happening in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to take the floor? Saudi Arabia.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to reaffirm that the decision should, on the change of the assembly date should be submitted ahead of time so that we can review this before coming to a decision. Thank you.
Saudi Arabia, I think the issue now is we have to actually decide. So there may have been earlier notice. I'm not sure when this paper was published. I'm not seeing any other delegations seek the floor. What I propose to do is, as I said before, I will ask if there is consensus on the original date, and then I will see if Yep. Nepal, you have the floor.
Chair, after you complete.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I was just going. I will see if there is consensus on that. If there's not consensus on that, then my view is we would move to a vote, as the normal way would do it. I think the most sensible thing is vote on the original date motion. If that's defeated, then we would effectively put another motion that suggests the second date. Therefore, we have a binary choice, but you know what you're effectively voting for. You're voting for either the existing date or a week deferred. Nepal?
Thank you, Chair. Of course, it helps to have that clarity of schedule, also the clarity of venue among the many parameters of engagement, right? And for that, we join China in saying that maybe a better coordination with the Palais beforehand would have helped us a better scenario. We also thank the Secretariat because this thing was also brought up during the informal briefing that was held for the regional coordinators in Geneva. And we understand that the standard practice is that the outcomes or the key takeaways of those regional briefings are communicated by the regional coordinators to their respective regions, the member states of the respective regions. But still, I think more clarification to have the options before us, if that was communicated beforehand, in other manner that would have helped us. Again, on the issue before us, if the ultimate trade-off is between keeping the dates as such in one hand and having the proceedings in one single venue, if that is the ultimate choice, then Nepal's choice, being a resource-constrained delegation, being a delegation that has to manage within its limited human resource, all these involvements. Our preference is to have the proceedings of the World Health Assembly, including the Committee A, including the Committee B, and I also believe that there will be other side events, the meetings of the Credentials Committee, right, those things in a single venue, if that is the ultimate choice. But our preference is not to have that trade-off. But if the trade-off is inevitable, then our preference is to have this as an exceptional measure, and we understand that this is not setting a precedence, as an exceptional measure, to have the Assembly, to convene the Assembly in a single venue, including its committees. And for that, if the bitter pill is to sift the debt, then we are for it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'll now give the floor to Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Chair. So just for clarity, my point is that first, if there is a deferral, then there should be options for this deferral, whether we start on 25th or even in the middle of the week, and then continue. This is one option. So start on 28 or 27. I know that there might be other large meetings during that time. However, that is an option. If there is no consensus on the current date, again, so multiple options that we need to consider. So we need to think about it and consult. And also bringing it prior, I understand that is not possible as well, just to confirm. Thank you.
I'll take these speakers first in case there's some overlap, and then we'll talk to get the Secretary to raise on what practical options there could be, and then we can think about whether it is actually, well, where we get to on this, whether it's worth suspending briefly to understand some of those options. That might be the case. Go to Qatar, followed by Lebanon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And also I extend my thanks to for the logistical assurance and support by the Secretariat, which is really reassuring, either on the process or even with the logistical support. In brief, Qatar support the predefined, as being highlighted by Spain, for the predefined dates, as it has been communicated and agreed at all of the three capital levels. So in short, we support the dates from the 18th till the 23rd. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Lebanon, followed by Germany.
Thank you, Chair. So just to keep more clarity about the matter, since the dates were already communicated between 18 and 23, and mind you that also we have the EB that follows, which is actually 25, 26. So I'm asking about the possibility to hold the whole WHA and EB in this building, in the WHO building, if that's possible, so that it will be in the one venue, the same place, the old building and the new building, if it accommodates, so that we will keep the same dates and at the same time we will have the considerations of being in one place. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give the floor to Solomon Islands.
Thank you, Chair. Coming from a small island nation and having to travel more than 30 hours to come here, we have already done our preparatory work. Logistically, arrangements are already in place, so therefore we maintain the first option date. Thank you.
Give the floor to Australia.
Thank you, Chair. We'd support the Solomon Islands, acknowledging that a lot of time has been set for senior people. We'll also acknowledge the amount of side events that are set up through this that have already been pre-arranged and organised, and the logistical kind of issues that it could cause if we do change the date. Thank you.
Thank you. Germany.
Thank you. We would like to support the statements made by Spain and also now by Australia. We obviously do understand that different venues are challenging for smaller delegations. We, however, trust the Secretariat to arrange the agenda in a way that would allow for movement between these different venues. If the date is postponed, we fear that high-level participation can no longer be guaranteed, and this would be a disadvantage for all delegations. So we strongly support to keep the original date. Thank you.
Give the floor to Egypt.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. Again, we're supporting the proposal from our colleagues from Qatar and Spain for keeping the dates from 18 to 23. And your initial proposal, Chair, to consider firstly to decide whether or not to go for that dates, because I'm not quite sure if there is any overlapping big events like the Human Rights Council to be held laterly, and that might affect the availability of the space. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see no further calls from delegations. I will ask the Secretariat to clarify, in particular, the question about whether you could accommodate everyone here at WHO headquarters. That's the one further question we've had from Lebanon. And then I think I will propose to move to directly the question of whether we maintain the current dates. So, Secretariat.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I don't think we can accommodate the plenary here. I think that's impossible. We don't have the space. Even for Committee A, it's as big as Committee B, and this is the only big room we have. So it would mean overflow rooms, so not really very feasible, and definitely plenary is impossible. We can look at other options for other parallel meetings to have as little as possible moving, but for Committee A and for plenary, I don't see another solution than the Palais, unfortunately. And just to clarify, because there was a question also on the week, so the week even further before is impossible, we were told, and indeed there is also the Council of Human Rights that apparently has priority and has been given priority. The week directly after is the week we are discussing, and it's unfortunately confined to those dates. That would be, the only possibility would be to go from 25th May to 30th of May, because directly thereafter, the ILO has at least the plenary, and that is what is the crux of the matter, is the availability of the plenary. So we are in a straight jacket, and I fully agree that I think to make it work for the currently scheduled period is probably the most straightforward way to go.
Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. I think we all acknowledge that... oh, sorry? Okay, apologies. Palestine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Just, we are willing always to help. Can we get both committees here at the WHO headquarters, A and B? Thank you.
So the Secretariat is, no, both committees require a big room. There's only one big room. That is unfortunately where we are. So unless there's any other delegation who wants to seek the floor, I think we have clarity about the issue. I think we also have point made by a number of delegations. We would rather not be in this situation. We have to probably make sure the communication with Palais and here is such that we don't face this difficult choice in the future. We essentially have a choice between a date that's been locked in for a while, which is in lots of people's diaries, including non-member states. Lots of side events have very senior people with tricky diaries, and the fact that we will put more pressure on smaller delegations in particular to have to move between venues. That is the trade-off. So what I will do, what I'm going to propose again is I'm going to put the proposition to the board that the 79th World Health Assembly should be held in Geneva, opening on Monday the 18th of May 2026 and should close no later than September 23, May 2026. And the Executive Board would be held on May 25 and May 26. So I'm putting that to the board. Do any delegations want to? Nepal, I recognise.
Thank you, Chair. Could you read that exact phrasing again, just to make sure that we are on the same page?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
So The decision would be the Executive Board decided that the 79th World Health Assembly should be held in Geneva, opening on Monday the 18th of May 2026 and should close no later than Saturday the 23rd of May 2026, and that the Executive Board would be held in Geneva on Monday the 25th of May 2026 and Tuesday the 26th of May 2026. In other words, it would be a resolution to maintain the current dates. So I'm putting that to the board, and I'm asking if there are any delegations that object to that. Nepal.
Thank you, Chair. On this, I think more discussions will help just to make sure that we are on the same page. So our proposal for now would be to suspend the discussions now, so that we and then move to the next agenda item, and we can come back again when we have a fuller picture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think that's a sensible suggestion. We will suspend it to later in the agenda. I note that who knows, but we may be finishing today. And therefore, I think I would encourage you to undertake whatever consultations you feel you need to make over lunch, and that we could return to this in the afternoon would, I think, be preferable. But you if you can let us know when you think you're in a position to have an informed position, that would be very useful. Obviously, as I've foreshadowed, if we can't get consensus, it is a standard decision of the board and we can move to a vote. But if you could undertake those consultations and come back, that would be great. So on that, I'm just going to suspend. So on that matter, I will suspend this item to come back to it later in the afternoon. It's suspended.
We have an announcement now, and then we should suspend the session.
Yes. The announcement's about the... yes. I'm going to make a brief announcement, then we will suspend the session. Can we just... this will literally... Sorry. This will literally take 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and that way we can then take a suspension. I will move to the lunch break. I would like to remind people, as put in the session, there will be an informal consultation in relation to the draft decision on governance reform contained in document EB 158/36 Add 1 Rev 1. This will be held in the Executive Boardroom at 13:15 to 14:15. So all delegations are welcome to that. Hopefully we can narrow any differences in the text. I'm hoping we bring that back as the first item that we come after our resumption at 14:30. So just to repeat, the informal consultation in relation to the draft decision on governance reform contained in document EB 158/36 Add 1 Rev 1 will be held in the Executive Boardroom at 13:15 and going to 14:15, and then I intend to bring that back as the first item at 14:30. Thank you very much. The session is suspended.